You know, if there's one thing I've learned from this journey from winning Miss World at 18 to acting across continents, it's that perfection is an illusion. It's a moving target, one that keeps shifting the moment you think you've hit it. Early in my career, I wasted so much energy trying to be perfect, the perfect daughter, the perfect actress, the perfect public figure. I thought if I could just get everything right, I'd finally feel successful. Accepted enough, but let me tell you the truth. That chase is exhausting, and worse, it's endless. What changed everything for me was a shift in mindset from chasing perfection to embracing progress. Because perfection, in its rigid, unrealistic form, doesn't let you grow. It freezes you. It convinces you not to try unless you're already good. It tells you to stay in your comfort zone because the outside world is full of judgment. But progress is movement. It's messy, it's real, it's human, and it's powerful. When I started acting, I wasn't flawless. I didn't know the craft like many others did. I wasn't polished. I had insecurities about my skin, my accent, my voice. I was nervous about messing up in front of the camera. But here's what I did do. I kept showing up. I listened. I practiced. I took feedback. I stayed hungry to learn. Every film, every role, every failure, all of it became part of my evolution. And with every step, I got better, not perfect, better. There were moments where I completely bombed a scene, times when critics tore me apart, but you know what? I didn't let those moments define me, I used them. I learned from them. That's what progress looks like. It's not always glamorous. You don't always get a standing ovation. Sometimes it's just about looking at yesterday and knowing I'm a little bit better today. That's the win. We live in a culture today that's obsessed with the highlight reel, the awards, the followers, the flawless selfies. But what people don't see is the hard work behind the scenes, the failed auditions. The sleepless nights, the private doubts, that's the part I respect the most in people. Not how perfect they seem, but how brave they are to keep going when no one's clapping. I want to say this especially to the dreamers out there, the ones waiting to feel ready. You will never feel completely ready, you will never be perfectly prepared, but you don't have to be. You just have to start. Start with what you have, start where you are, because every expert was once a beginner, and every master once made a miss. Progress is forgiving. It allows room for error, for growth, for learning. It celebrates effort over outcome, and in the long run, it's what creates excellence. You think the world's top athletes, the most powerful leaders, the greatest artists got where they are by being perfect every day. No, they were consistent, they improved, one step at a time, 1% at a time. Let go of the pressure to be flawless. Speak even if your voice shakes. Write even if your grammar isn't perfect. Create even if your first draft is terrible. Perform even if you miss a line. The point is not to get it all right, the point is to try, and then to try again and again until you grow into the version of yourself that once felt impossible. For me, progress over perfection isn't just a mantra, it's a survival strategy. It's how I broke into a foreign industry, how I expanded my voice beyond acting, how I became a producer, a writer, a global ambassador, and a mother. Not by being perfect at everything, but by growing, evolving, learning on the job, failing forward. And let me be clear, progress doesn't mean you settle. It doesn't mean you lower your standards. It means you build toward your vision instead of expecting to reach it in one giant leap. It means understanding that success isn't a destination, it's a daily decision, a commitment to becoming a little more skilled, a little more confident, a little more you every single day. So the next time you hesitate to begin something because you're not ready, do it anyway. The next time you catch yourself overthinking, waiting to be perfect, stop. Just take the next small step, write the email. Record the song, apply for the job, share your story, because perfection is static. Progress is movement, and movement is life, and in this life, I would rather be a work in progress than a flawless statue collecting dust. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to keep going, and that, my friend, is where the magic lives. There's something beautiful about beginnings. They're full of hope, of possibilities, of excitement. But you know what else they're full of? Uncertainty, pressure, doubt, especially when the goal you've set for yourself seems so far away it feels like a dream. We've all been there, looking at the top of the mountain and wondering how we're ever going to make it. What I've learned through years of being in industries that demand so much, Bollywood, Hollywood, music, philanthropy, business, is that the only way to get to the big victories is through small, consistent wins. When I started out, I didn't have a grand plan. I didn't map out a global career. I didn't say, I want to be a crossover star. I didn't know how to act, how to sing professionally, how to produce films, or even how to speak in public without being nervous. But I did know how to show up. I knew how to try. I knew how to take the first small step, even when I wasn't sure where it would lead, and every small step became a brick in the foundation of a much bigger future. It's so easy to underestimate small wins. They don't make headlines. Nobody claps for you when you wake up early to train, or stay up late to practice lines, or reread your script one more time when you'd rather scroll through your phone. But those moments, those choices, they matter, they compound, they build momentum. People often ask me, how did you go from Bollywood to Hollywood? How did you become a producer, a UNICEF ambassador, a best-selling author? And my answer is the same every time, one small win at a time. One audition, one difficult conversation, one risk, one more take when the director says, let's go again. One chance to speak up when I used to stay quiet. You don't have to do something massive today to be proud of yourself. You just have to move forward. You just have to be better than yesterday, even by the tiniest bit. That's a win. I remember when I was shooting Quantico, my first American TV show, the schedule was brutal. 12, sometimes 16-hour days. I was far from home. Everything was new. People, systems, expectations. But every time I got through one more scene, one more script, one more week, I counted that as a win. And those small wins stacked up. They gave me the strength to keep going, and they reminded me that even in unfamiliar territory, I could still find my rhythm. The same goes for personal growth. Let's say you want to get healthier. You don't need to run a marathon on day one. Maybe you drink more water, you stretch, you walk for 10 minutes. That's a win. Want to improve your confidence? Speak up in one meeting. Say no when you usually say yes. Compliment yourself in the mirror. Win, win, win. The problem is, we often don't give ourselves credit unless we achieve something big. But let me ask you, how do you think the big things happen? They happen when you keep showing up long after the excitement wears off. When you celebrate progress, no matter how small. When you understand that consistency is a superpower. Small wins build trust in yourself, and that trust, it's everything. It's what gives you the courage to chase bigger dreams. Because once you see that you can take small steps and actually move forward, you stop waiting for perfect timing and start believing in your own ability to create momentum. Think about it like this. If you grow 1% every day, you're not just adding, you're multiplying. That's how compounding works. One day of progress might not feel like much, but stack up 100 days and suddenly you're unrecognizable from the person you used to be. I've seen this in my own life again and again. When I was writing my memoir Unfinished, I didn't sit down and write it in one go. It was months of writing a few pages here and there, reflecting, editing, remembering moments I had buried deep, but every chapter I finished, no matter how rough, was a win. And all those small wins became a book I'm deeply proud of. You don't have to have it all figured out today. You just need to ask yourself, what's the next small win I can claim? What's one thing I can do that future me will thank me for? Don't wait for the award, the applause, the grand moment. Those will come, but only if you honor the small ones first. That quiet moment of discipline, that extra 5 minutes of effort, that kind word to yourself. That choice to keep going, those are your building blocks, because here's the truth. People will celebrate your big victories, but you will know that it was the small ones, stacked one after another, that truly changed your life. So don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't talk yourself out of starting just because the goal feels far away. Start small, win small, and trust that with time those little victories will lead to something extraordinary. Keep showing up, keep stacking wins, and one day you'll look around and realize you didn't just chase your dreams, you built them, one step at a time. There's a common misconception out there that you need to be motivated to do something important, that the stars have to align, the mood has to be right, and the energy has to feel on before you act. But if I had waited to feel motivated every time I needed to perform, train, or show up, I would have never gotten anything done. Not one thing. Let me tell you something from experience. Motivation is fleeting. Discipline is what carries you forward. Motivation is that spark, it gets you excited, sure, but sparks fade. Discipline is the firewood. It's what keeps you burning long after that initial excitement disappears. And in the long run, that's what makes the real difference in your career, in your health, in your mindset, in your life. There are days I wake up and don't feel like doing anything, not reading scripts, not working out, not getting into character, not sitting in a chair for 5 hours of hair and makeup, not facing the camera, not putting on a smile, but I do it anyway. Why? Because I made a commitment not just to the world, but to myself. Discipline is honoring that commitment even when no one's watching, especially when no one's watching. When I was filming Quantico, the schedule was insane. We were filming in a different country, and I was balancing that with music recordings, brand shoots, and family back home. There were nights I'd come home so drained I could barely keep my eyes open, but I still had lines to memorize, interviews to prepare for, scripts to read. I didn't have the luxury of waiting to feel inspired. I had to deliver, so I showed up every day whether I felt like it or not. That's discipline, that's muscle memory of the mind, and the truth is, the more disciplined you become, the less you rely on motivation. You stop waiting to feel in the mood. You stop asking yourself if you want to do something. You just do it, because it's a part of who you are now, your system, your rhythm, your code. The world will often applaud your outcomes, but they'll never see the discipline that built them. The 6 a.m. call times, the skipped parties, the hours in the gym, the flights you take while everyone else is sleeping, the decisions you make every day to keep your goals alive even when they're not convenient. Discipline is not glamorous, it's not loud, it's not fun. It doesn't give you instant gratification, but it gives you something far more powerful: consistency. And consistency builds trust not just with others, but with yourself. You start believing in your own word. When you say, "I'll show up," you do. When you say, "I'll finish this," you do. That kind of internal reliability, that's gold. That's the foundation of confidence. And let's be honest, life isn't predictable. There will be days you're tired, anxious, overwhelmed. Days filled with heartbreak or stress or fear. On those days, motivation won't save you, but discipline will. It's the anchor that holds you steady when the storm hits. People often ask me how I stay focused. The answer is simple. I don't rely on feelings. I rely on systems. I rely on choices I made when I was clear-headed, driven, and honest about what I wanted. I create routines, boundaries, and rituals that support me not because I enjoy every one of them, but because I believe in the bigger picture they serve. You don't have to be in love with the process every day. You just have to respect it, and the beautiful thing, the more you practice discipline, the more motivation starts to follow. It's a funny twist. When you get into the habit of showing up even when you don't feel like it, something magical happens. You start to feel like it, you start enjoying the grind, you start craving that feeling of completion, of effort, of resilience. That's the transformation. You go from waiting to be inspired to becoming the kind of person who inspires yourself. Not because you were always confident, not because you had a constant fire, but because you were consistent even when you weren't. So here's what I want you to remember. Discipline beats motivation every single time. Motivation may light the match, but discipline builds the fire. Start small. Wake up a little earlier. Stick to your word. Finish what you start. Say no to things that don't align with your purpose. Build systems that support your energy. Create rituals that keep you grounded. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait for the mood to strike. Just decide. Because at the end of the day, the version of you that's out there making things happen, building dreams, changing lives, achieving the impossible, they're not doing it because they always feel like it. They're doing it because they trained themselves to keep going, and you can too. Not someday, not next week. Start today, start now. Let your discipline lead, your dreams will follow. One of the hardest things in today's world is tuning out the noise. And by noise, I don't just mean sound, I mean opinions, comparisons, criticism, social media pressure, expectations. It's everywhere. Everyone has something to say about who you should be, what you should do, how you should look, what success should feel like. And if you're not careful, all that noise drowns out the most important voice you have, your own. Let me be completely honest with you. I didn't grow up thinking I would be famous. I didn't dream of being on billboards or magazine covers. I just wanted to be me, but the moment I stepped into the public eye, the noise began. People had opinions about my body, my skin color, my accent, my relationships, my career choices. At first, it rattled me. I started second, guessing myself. I started wondering, should I change who I am to be accepted? Should I play smaller to make other people comfortable? But something inside me said no, and I'm so glad I listened. Because here's the truth, the world will always have an opinion. No matter what you do, someone will tell you you're too much or not enough, too loud or too quiet, too bold or too boring, and if you try to please everyone, you lose yourself in the process. You become a version of yourself that's curated by fear, not shaped by truth. So I made a decision, a life-altering one, to tune out the noise and focus on me, on what I wanted, on what made me proud of myself, on what felt aligned with my values, my goals, my purpose. And you know what I discovered? When you stop living for validation, you start living for fulfillment. That's a powerful shift. You stop reacting to the world and start creating your own. It wasn't easy. There were times I felt misunderstood, criticized, even mocked, but I held on to the truth that I didn't come this far to be defined by someone else's limitations. I didn't work this hard to dim my light because someone else found it uncomfortable. I didn't cross oceans and cultures to fit into a mold. I was here to break molds, and the only way I could keep doing that was by staying rooted in who I am, not who people expected me to be. That's what I want for you too. Your journey is yours, your growth, your healing, your progress. It doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be posted or praised or liked by others. It just needs to be real. You don't need everyone's approval to do what you love. You don't need the internet to clap for your success. You don't need the crowd to see your every move. You just need to believe in what you're doing and be consistent about it. Focusing on yourself isn't selfish. It's sacred. It's the only way to truly evolve. It's the only way to discover what you're capable of without constantly being pulled in 100 different directions. And let's be real, some of the noise comes from within. That inner critic, that voice that says you're not good enough, not ready, not worthy, it's loud. But it's not the truth. It's just fear wearing a familiar face. The more you strengthen your focus on yourself, on your values, your growth, your integrity, the quieter that voice becomes. It loses its power when you stop feeding it attention. I remember a time when I was offered roles that didn't feel right, roles that leaned into stereotypes, that didn't reflect the woman I had grown into. Turning them down wasn't easy. People questioned me. They told me I was making a mistake. But I had to focus on the long game, not the instant reward. I had to trust my gut, and because I did, I opened space for the roles that did align. Roles that elevated, not diminished. Roles that reflected my strength, not just my appearance. When you're focused on yourself, you play the long game. You stop chasing hype and start building legacy. You stop asking, what will people say? And start asking, what will I be proud of 10 years from now? You don't need to shout louder than the noise. You just need to stand taller in your truth. Silence the outside. Turn inward, build habits that serve your growth, not your image. Surround yourself with people who see your light, not just your status. Invest in yourself, your mind, your body, your soul, even if no one claps for it. Especially when no one claps for it. Because here's what I've learned: the people who change the world aren't the ones who are the loudest. They're the ones who are the most focused. So take the pressure off. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your pace, your path, or your priorities. You just owe it to yourself to stay the course, do the work, and keep showing up for you. Ignore the noise, focus on you. Because that's where your real power lies, and when you're locked in on your own growth, the noise fades. All that's left is purpose, and purpose is louder than applause. Failure, it's a word we're all taught to fear. From a young age, we're conditioned to believe that failing means we're not good enough, not smart enough, not talented enough. But let me tell you something I've learned not just through my career, but through life. Failure is not the end. It's a teacher. It's not a full stop. It's a comma. It's feedback. There have been times in my life when I gave everything I had to something and it didn't work out. There were auditions I didn't land, films that didn't do well, songs that didn't hit, business ideas that stalled, people I trusted who let me down, and yes, it hurt. I felt it. The sting of rejection, the pressure of expectations, the weight of public scrutiny. It's easy to look at someone's success and think it was all smooth sailing, but trust me, every win is built on 100 lessons learned from failure. When I first went to Hollywood, I was told I wouldn't make it because of my accent, my background, my skin color. I was told I wouldn't fit in, that I should stick to where I was already successful, that it was too big a leap, and for a moment I wondered if they were right, but then I reminded myself failure doesn't define you unless you let it. Instead of taking no as a dead end, I started seeing it as a redirection. Maybe I didn't get that role because it wasn't meant for me. Maybe that partnership didn't work because something better was waiting. Maybe that project failed to succeed because it was teaching me how to handle something even bigger. That's the shift we all need to make to stop seeing failure as a reflection of our worth and start seeing it as information. Feedback, data, guidance, a signal that says, not this way, but keep going. When you look at failure through that lens, it loses its power to paralyze you. It becomes something you can learn from, grow through, and even be grateful for. I remember once walking out of a meeting after being told to tone it down, to smile more, speak less, and not challenge the status quo. I was younger then, less sure of myself. I walked away feeling defeated. Like maybe being me wasn't enough, but after the initial heartbreak, I realized something. That failure wasn't personal, it was cultural. It was a signal that I needed to find places where I could bring all of me to the table, unapologetically. That meeting was a failure, yes, but it was feedback. It told me what kind of rooms I didn't want to be in anymore. So many of us avoid taking chances because we're afraid to fail. But what we don't realize is, not trying at all is the biggest failure of all. Because when you fail at something, at least you know what doesn't work. You have a direction, you have experience, you have proof that you were brave enough to try, and in this world that counts for more than perfection ever will. Every time you fall, you build resilience. Every time you get back up, you build strength. And eventually, those failures become the foundation of your success. Not the opposite of it, the very reason for it. We live in a world obsessed with highlights. Social media shows us polished victories, not the messy trials behind them. But I want to tell you the truth, even the most successful people you admire have failed. Many times they've made mistakes, they've had doubts, they've questioned themselves, but they didn't stop, and neither should you. Fail fast, fail forward. Take the lesson, adjust your approach, and go again. Think about a child learning to walk. They fall constantly, but never once do they think, maybe I'm not cut out for this. They keep trying, wobbling, adjusting, until one day they walk, then they run. That's how we're built, but somewhere along the way, we let fear interrupt that process. We become so afraid of falling that we stop moving altogether. Failure is just part of the journey. It's not your enemy. It's your compass. If something doesn't work out, ask yourself, what did I learn? What will I do differently next time? How can I grow from this? Don't let one loss take away your courage. Don't let one no cancel your self-belief. You have to fail your way to greatness. That's the truth no one puts on posters, but it's the most important truth I know. So the next time you fail, pause. Feel what you need to feel, then stand up, shoulders back, and keep moving. Not because it's easy, but because you owe it to yourself to keep showing up. You're not defined by your failure. You're shaped by how you respond to it. And if you keep responding with grit, grace, and growth, trust me, success isn't a matter of if. It's only a matter of when. Failure is just feedback. Listen to it, learn from it, then go again, this time wiser, and don't you dare stop. People often ask, what's your secret? Like there's a magic shortcut to growth, to success, to fulfillment. But here's the truth no one wants to hear. There is no secret. There's just consistent effort over time, the daily work, the quiet choices, the unseen discipline, and that's where real transformation happens. That's where compound growth becomes not just a concept but your reality. We live in a world that glorifies overnight success, viral moments, quick wins. But I've learned, both personally and professionally, that the things that truly matter, the things that are meaningful, sustainable, and lasting, don't come from big, dramatic leaps. They come from small, intentional actions repeated again and again over time. That's compound growth. It's the same principle as interest in a bank. You may not see a big return at first, but as the investment continues, as time does its work, the growth starts to build, quietly, steadily, powerfully, and then one day everything shifts, not because you did something wildly different, but because your consistency paid off. Let me give you an example. When I first started acting, I wasn't the most polished. I was learning, I was figuring it out as I went. I made mistakes, I stumbled, I overthought, but I showed up every day, every set, every role. I watched, I listened, I asked questions, I studied people. And slowly I got better, not in a way the world could immediately see, but in a way I could feel. Each film taught me something. Each character refined a part of me. And before I knew it, the girl who walked onto her first set unsure, nervous, had become a professional who could carry a project on her shoulders. That didn't happen because of one big break. It happened because of thousands of small efforts stacked on top of each other every single day. It's the same with fitness, mental health, relationships, learning new skills. You don't wake up transformed. You build yourself into the person you want to be, one decision at a time, and over time, those decisions compound into something extraordinary. The problem is, we often give up too soon. We try something for a few weeks, don't see massive results, and assume it's not working. But what if it is working just beneath the surface? What if those tiny steps are laying a foundation so strong you'll thank yourself later for not quitting? Let me be real with you. There were times I wanted to stop, times I questioned if it was worth it, if anyone noticed, if the effort was paying off. But now, looking back, I can tell you with absolute certainty, the work adds up. Every single rep, every script I read, every early morning flight, every audition I didn't get, every role I poured my heart into, it all mattered, it all multiplied. The beauty of compound growth is that it sneaks up on you. You don't always feel it happening, but then something clicks. The opportunity you once dreamed about suddenly feels like something you're prepared for, not by accident, but because you've been doing the work all along. So, don't underestimate small progress. Don't dismiss that extra hour you spent learning, that workout you almost skipped but didn't, that conversation where you pushed yourself to be better, kinder, stronger. Don't wait for the world to applaud you. Your growth is happening even when no one is watching, especially then. And here's something else I've learned: once you start compounding in one area of your life, it spills into others. You gain momentum, you build confidence, you realize you can show up consistently, you can make tough decisions, you can keep your word to yourself, and that creates a ripple effect. You stop being driven by results and start being driven by growth. And that's when real power kicks in, but let me be clear, this isn't about being perfect. You'll mess up, you'll fall off track, that's human. What matters is getting back to the habit, the rhythm, the effort. Progress doesn't have to be linear to be powerful, it just has to continue. So if you're in a season where it feels like your work isn't paying off, stay the course. If you're building something and it's taking longer than expected, trust the process. If you're investing in yourself and wondering if it matters, it does. Compound growth is slow until it's not, until it suddenly shows up in the form of new opportunities, new clarity, new strength. And then it feels like everything changed at once, but you'll know it was never all at once. It was years in the making. You want lasting change, real success, true mastery, then build daily, build small. Build when you're excited, build when you're tired. Build because every effort you make is a brick in the house of your future. Compound growth is real, but only if you respect it enough to be patient. To be disciplined, to stay committed when it's boring, and to believe in the value of showing up even when you don't feel like it. Because one day, when you're standing at the top of your own mountain, people will say, "Wow, how did you get here so fast?" And you'll smile. Because you'll know you didn't get there fast. You got there daily.